Hello,
Hello,
and welcome to the Off-Air Voiceover podcast.
My,
That was a smooth
my
start.
name, of course, is Michael.
And I'm Jen Lawson-Hunt. What was that?
Don't know. The cheese level just went
Oh dear,
stratospheric.
that's who I am. That's who. Anyway, today we're excited to have a very special guest with us today. We've got
Yep.
Emily Jardine in the booth with us today.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, and I'm sure many of you will know Emily. She's a fantastic voiceover artist and casting director, amongst many, many other things. Emily, I'm going to pass over to you to let you introduce it yourself.
Well, most of you know me as a VO and a coach, but yeah, I spent, I don't even know how many years casting as well, from a tiny little company that most people haven't heard of to a huge advertising giant. So yeah, it's been a nice kind of viewpoint of everything.
Yeah, there's a lot of specialist knowledge there.
It's
Yes.
like a Swiss Army knife of skills.
I should use that as my tagline.
There's a lot.
Jardine.
There's definitely a few people who say that actually now. I know at least two, so be wary with that one.
I won't use it then.
How are you getting on? So obviously last time we spoke, you were doing the whole house move and everything, and
Yeah,
How
it's
you getting on?
crazy. It's so at the moment I'm not in my booth, as you can probably see and hear. But if I showed my booth to you, what it looks like right now, Rob B would have a fit. So we're not doing that.
likewise.
And
Likewise.
he
Do
rolls.
you not want to get them wrong there, Robbie?
But yeah, so we're having walls knocked down, a bathroom pulled out, everything changed. It's absolutely crazy. So
I've
yeah.
got since I'm going back to France next week, but while I've been back in Manchester, I've got at the old house. I've got this vocal booth to go, and it serves me well. You know, it's a great isolation thing. But last week, I woke up in the morning. I could hear this like. I was like, what the hell is that? And I looked, and basically there's a leak in the ceiling right above me. Now this is only a very small cottage, so the ceiling's very low, and this booth is about what 6'3", 6'4", something like that. So it's been coming down on the roof of the top blanket, and you can't really see it, but all the roof has caved down, and it's just saturated with water.
Oh my god.
So I was like, no. Anyway,
So
the
at
roof.
any point.
No, it's all so because the weather's gone nice. It's all right at the moment. I was like, please stop raining.
Last time we recorded, I was expecting it to like collapse on his head. But apparently, he had replaced it with another booth. With
It
another
is really like
blanket.
it's dried out quite a bit now because we've been fortunate. There's been like 4 days of no rain, so there's been no more further drips, and it's drying out a tiny bit. But the roofer guys are actually supposed to be coming this morning. So I thought they'd be here already. So if for whatever reason they do turn up inconveniently, of course they will when we're recording.
Imagine
Yeah,
them
so-
sticking their head through the booth, like, can you leave now, mate?
It's going to put a power drill on me. Is that all right? It's like, no, it's fucking not me. So yeah, but no, it's so yeah, it's the same. If Rob saw like sort of the environment, yeah, people probably have a few words.
To be fair, your audio sounds pretty good at the moment.
Well, yeah, I'm still using my.
Oh,
my
sorry, I
phone
meant
mic and-
Emily.
Oh, well, thank you.
It
was-
It's just like no, yours is shit. As
yours, yours also sounds fine.
No, I literally like dragged my other half, Robin, out of bed earlier. And I was like, "We need a setup," and so my laptop is currently on a filing cabinet. So yeah, and so this is my mic is here, and what you can't see in front of me at the moment is an Emma mattress. So
That's a like high brand mattress as well. Not this inferior mattress for it.
I've got in here. So the way the booth is set up, so where my laptop is now, there's an alcove in the wall. So I purposely put the booth positioned like this so I could, because there's nowhere to put a desk for the computer. I mean, we're talking like a very small box room, and the booth pretty much takes up 2/3 of it. So I positioned it so that the laptop can go in the alcove, and I can speak to you guys. But when I'm doing the pods, it means that although my mic is next to me, I'm projecting into quite an echoey environment.
Yeah.
Whereas normally I'd face this way, and it's all nicely soundproof. So yeah, so if it is slightly echoey, I do apologise.
no, you sound
it should be
great.
all right.
This is good.
Okay, so as obviously we talked beforehand, and as we said in other episodes, this season we're largely talking about casting in general, and obviously Emily, with your experience and vast knowledge of casting, we thought it'd be a great opportunity to talk to you about it. You can obviously share your pearls of wisdom about the whole. It wasn't necessarily just about the casting process, but more like your experience over time, like what you've seen that, good do's and don'ts and information or tips that you could give people that might be beneficial to them, old and new. You know what I mean? There's always new people coming in to the industry, so it's certainly worth it for that. But someone with experience, I think there's always room to learn something.
Oh my goodness, and always more to get. You're always looking for the next job, aren't you? And the world's changing so quickly. We need to all keep on top of things.
And, just to start us off, I guess, is that you're right, things have massively changed. And I think it was about 14 years ago when I started in casting and VO. And at the time, we didn't have as many VOs to work with as we do now. And accents were relatively limited. Like, for example, international voice artists, we had very few that we would actively work with in the UK. So if we had an accent we didn't have, we would get somebody in to do the accent. And I remember this one time, we desperately needed a Polish accent, and we didn't have anyone in the UK. Absolutely no one. So we had to get somebody in who could do it to a native standard, but that would never happen nowadays.
No.
Absolutely no, but that's what we had to do at the time. And the industry has massively shifted in a good way. So
I suppose because we think now that the rise of obviously home studio setups being like pretty much a must, and then with online accessible platforms like Clean Feed, Source Connect, etc., then it makes it way more accessible for people.
Yeah,
which I find is crazy, because it feels like there's no end of voiceovers, and then like say to think that there was a time where it was difficult trying to find someone of certain tones and styles and everything.
Yeah, it really was. And I guess the importance then was that we knew about you, because if we didn't know about you, we wouldn't have obviously the opportunity to book you, but the chances are we would need you. And that it's still that important today. But I would say what's more important now is that you need to be not everywhere, but if you're with, like, for example, an exclusive agency in the UK, you still need agencies in different countries, because the whole world needs to know about you if you want to thrive and survive in today's industry. It's so hard to keep going and keep busy at the moment, especially given everything that's going on. It's not just,
Well, I totally second that, because, I think you can pigeonhole yourself a little bit too much and think, okay, well, I'm a British voiceover, so I'll market to Britain. But people forget that every country that doesn't speak English need an English version of a voiceover at some point. And when you think about that, then it becomes like we're just a tiny dot on the list of potential places you can get work from. I mean, now you're going borderline global. So I'm a big advocate for it. I think it's there's loads of potential to tap into if you go outside of the box a little bit, and present yourself to, I don't know, pick any country that doesn't speak English natively and offer your services. You'd be surprised at how much potential work there is, and there's actually a lot less competition as well.
Exactly. And I may be about to flood the Belgian market here, so sorry, all production companies. But to all of you VOs, apparently Belgium are seeing a shortage of English voice artists.
And let's go.
Go. So I don't know if that's still the case, but I do remember talking to somebody last year, a very good source, because they are an agent in Belgium, and they said we need more. So
well, I not so much Belgium, but I do know definitely in Europe there are definitely places that do have a requirement for. So there's a law that's coming out in June. It's called the European Accessibility Act, and it basically means that I know roughly what it is, but I can't tell you precisely the definition. But essentially, if you're a company, I think I've got this right. If you're a company within Europe that operates within other countries in Europe, so let's say, for example, Belgium. If Belgium operates or has offices in England, maybe something like that, they have to, by law, provide content that translates into English as well, so it's more accessible. And then it also, now some people listen to it, no, it's not. Like it's borderline like that. So you have to have subtitles in correct languages.
So interesting.
So the 28th of June, by the time this episode comes out, I think it might have already come into play. If it's not, just Google it. European EAA 2025 comes out the 28th of June. But yeah, it's mandatory, and the fines if they don't adhere to it is massive. So, and obviously it means then going forward, all new content coming out has to be in English format as well. Not everything; it's only stuff that's relevant. So, not like saying any Belgian company, the corporate video that they produce has to have an English version. I don't mean that. I mean that there are certain types of certain types of content that has to adhere to the law based on these new EU rules. So it's well worth looking into to get the very specifics of, because that is it in a nutshell. Yeah. So you're right. So Belgium, a few others definitely have a higher need for it. But the problem is though, problem is you say this though. This is the thing. There's countless examples of times you can help people with certain things, but too many people still just won't do it, and I don't know why.
And, do you know, I was having a conversation with somebody about this yesterday, and I think a lot of it is, not a lot of it, but I would say a good portion of it is down to confidence. If you're currently finding it, there's a slowdown in work, you're going to feel less confident in yourself. Your self-esteem is going to take a hit. Therefore, you don't want to put yourself out there. Yeah. And also, given it's people are becoming more demanding. I'm finding it's almost like you're under extra pressure nowadays to perform, because there's an expectation that you've got this amazing home studio, you've got these agents, you've got this website, you've got these reels, and clients don't always know what they want either. And so I think as VOs we are consistently under this pressure to perform, and so when we're not seeing results the way we were expecting, we feel quite crushed, and we don't perform. When we're crushed, we go fight or flight.
I think tying into that, I think something for me is the overwhelm, and I think that's kind of what you're saying. It's not so much lack of confidence for me, but it's just that sometimes it's hard to imagine contacting people in the UK, never mind globally. Elsewhere. And I do, but it's just like, wow, it's just too much. And because we could be doing promoting ourselves forever and ever and ever, and then it's like, and then I just go into like panic, and then as you say, it's fight or flight, and then I shut down into a little turtle mode.
But you are right. I mean, it can be, when you think about the scope of it, it becomes very overwhelming. But that's when you just need to implement a strategy and go like, I remember once in a previous episode, one of the other seasons, I said about targeting Germany. We made a joke about it because of the way I'd phrased it. But I said basically, if you targeted,
did you say attack Germany?
Yeah,
yes, you did.
I just go and attack Germany. Like, no, I don't mean that.
No.
But yeah, like because it's
break
so
it down.
overwhelming. Yeah, just like say, right, okay, which country do I want to start with? Because you don't have to be. You don't have to be fluent in their language in any way, shape, or form. But just think, okay, what language do I want to try and start with? And then just go, and then you've got a whole.
So rational though, isn't it? And sometimes the overwhelm doesn't feel rational. But yes, you're right. Break it down.
Whole country to start with. Then you go, right, okay. Well, let's start with the capital. That's where everything's going to be. Berlin.
Exactly.
Video production companies, Berlin. Okay. And just go.
Yeah,
and then you've got tens of thousands of opportunities, and that's just Berlin.
And that is exciting, isn't it? Sorry, Emily. I think like the flip side of it is it's very exciting that it's endless opportunities. Yeah. But yes, sometimes I genuinely am feeling a bit panicky even thinking about it now.
Yeah, and it is about, like you say, taking the capital first, then going to the smaller areas, and I'm not particularly saying about Yell being a great source, but they do list. They do list companies. And my advice to people is, when you're going and looking at those places, is don't choose the ones that clearly look like advertising agencies, because they will go through agents.
Okay.
They're not going to be necessarily interested in individual people. The ones that you want to go for are I'm not going to say the terrible websites, because that's not what you want, but you want the ones that clearly aren't like designed by multi-million pound
Yeah.
creatives. You want because there's no chart. Well,
I can literally hear people scribbling away now, listening to all these points you're making, Emily, and being like, right,
good
where's my
information,
pen?
people.
Where's
Take
my
notes.
paper? Let's go.
sorry.
No, it's brilliant. It's really good. And also, I mean, like, how many, because you've got about 97,000 agents, haven't you? How many agents have you worldwide?
7,001 now. No, it's I use the word agents broadly, but
Yeah.
essentially I am with, I think it's about, I don't know, 49 or 50 different agencies / rosters.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then however many production
So
houses
those are
as well.
people that you might get work through, essentially. Yeah. Or
Yes.
get sent castings through.
Yes, and my business model, if you like, is to get with not as many as possible, because I need them to be meaningful and
Yeah, of course.
and whatever. But it's the law of probability. Is if you are with more people that you have a meaningful connection
Yeah.
with, regardless, you are going to naturally get more work. And also from a casting perspective, because I know from being that casting director that we will go to all kinds of places. We will go to production houses. We will go to rosters. The more places you appear in, the more chances you are going to be seen, the more online presence you actually have. And you want the internet to be full of you and your reels. So if somebody types in
Brilliant.
your name, you want to have 2 or 3 pages of you going, this, we've got this voice.
So from the casting point, so look, thinking back on that, then, like, put your casting director hat on then. So
Yes.
a project's come in, you've obviously got a character spec, so you roughly know what you're looking for. Just talk us through that process from there. So how does that look? What's the process entail?
Can I just clarify? It's mainly games that you cast now, is that right?
No, I mean, I've cast, over time, I've cast everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely everything. The most recent thing I did was a video game.
Okay.
So,
Well,
And you've
but
worked on some
when,
big ones as well, haven't you?
yeah, and it's a joy. Everybody thinks that, oh, you know, it's just a joy for the actors. That actually, no, us casting directors, we are so thrilled as well. Like, it is so exciting to see ourselves mentioned, if you like. So it's a huge thing when we get to work on a project like that. It's not an everyday thing. So yeah, but when I get a casting brief of any kind come in, it all starts with how much information my client has actually given me about the kind of voice that they want. Sometimes they have given me absolutely everything that I want, and it's really, really helpful. But I'm going to say about 80% of the time, I am filling in gaps.
Okay.
And sometimes it's not so much I'm filling in gaps, it is I have one line and I need to fill in the rest. And so the old phrase, casting directors don't always know what they're looking for, is exactly correct. It is true, because it all depends on how much information we've been given by our client. And most of the time I didn't have enough, so I had to do my own digging, I had to do my own research. But when it came to actually listening to the auditions, I was kind of waiting for that spark. I was waiting for that moment of, oh, I didn't think of that, or, oh, I like that. And my job was always to shorten it down to however many people had applied, to about 5 or 10 people for each role, whether that be character or whether that be for a spot, you know. And then those 10 choices would go to my client and they would choose. On the odd occasion, I would be asked, you choose.
Okay.
And I love doing that, because I then get to draw on not only your talent, but also if I know you, if I know that you are easy to direct, maybe if I've worked with you before, or if I know that when you walk in the booth, fireworks go off. So it's a nice, basically, if I know you, that's better. So interact with me on socials. You know, although I don't cast as much anymore, I've constantly got my ear to the ground. And so even if I can't cast you in a job, I can tell you when a new agency is popping up. I can tell you when somebody is looking for somebody and share the details with you. And I know that a lot of people have been cast in stuff because I've forwarded it to them. So,
It's good to know, yeah.
It's definitely good to know.
just one thing you mentioned there, I want to touch on about being easy to direct. That is
Yes.
such a crucial thing,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yes.
So, like, what? So, can you give an example? Is there anything you can think of, like, things that people have done where they've not been easy to direct? Is
Oh
it
my
not taking
God.
instructions?
Emily's face is priceless right now.
I'm just thinking, because obviously some people listening to this will be a mix of people who've got experience with it and will just like enjoying the story, and there's going to be people who are brand new to it and would like a bit of an insight as to the do's and the don'ts. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
what's an example of where it's not gone well?
Can I give you 3?
Oh, yes, please.
Far away.
So the first one was for, it was many, many years ago, so I don't even know if the VO is still a VO. But she was an actor. I think you would potentially have seen her on TV at the time. She's a fantastic actor. However, not a great voice artist, as it turns out. And she kept saying the same phrases in the same tone, and it took 27 full takes. And even on the 27th take, the client went, no. And so we had to splice halfway through a sentence. Like, it was absolutely crazy. This lady should have known better. She should have absolutely known better. Like I said, I don't know if she still does.
Yeah.
She still does VO, and I don't think it was her big thing. But you could hear that in the voice, that it wasn't her big thing.
Yeah.
But I just wish she'd listened to what I was saying. I even started saying to her, imitate me.
Yeah.
And we sometimes say the imitate me thing because it's helpful if we're looking for something very specific. But with her, I would never get the performance out of her unless she imitated me precisely.
That's mad. Like, I can't even imagine how. Yeah.
Well, Kelly
Wow.
Condren, she mentioned that on the first season. She said that a lot of actors who try and transition to voiceover are not very good.
No.
Like they're like screen actors who try and get into voiceover. A lot of them struggle with it.
I think it really varies, though, doesn't it?
Some will take to it like a fish to water, but it's knowing that because you are an actor doesn't necessarily make you a voice artist. There are very different skills. And one of them is that if you are an actor, you are used to using your body. You're used to using your posture, your eyes, your gesture, everything to portray an emotion. But when you get in that booth, it is the sound of your voice.
Yeah.
Yes, you can do all of those things still. You can move, and well, within reason.
But that's sorry, carry on.
No, that was it really. Is it your voice in isolation sounds nothing like your voice when you are giving somebody loads of other signals.
I think that was my biggest challenge coming from like the more screen acting stuff, was the fact that I was so used to moving around and just the having to stay at least a bit still, because otherwise you're off mic, aren't you? But I'm just so used to using everything, and then it's learning how to channel all that through your voice alone, and it's such a skill. It's such a transition.
It is. Oh, sorry, Michael. You go ahead.
No, go. Sorry, I'll come back to it. Sorry.
I was just going to add and say that actors have a incredible foundation for VO though. So it's I think the actors that I feel don't move well into VO are the ones that don't try.
Yeah.
It's that they often have an incredible basis for becoming a VO, but they don't necessarily do the research that will help them in that journey.
Yeah,
so they
okay.
bring the same principles, the same techniques to VO that they would to acting, and nothing else. And that's when they fall flat.
And
Yeah,
I
'cause
think
we
some people
often-
looked at. You go, Michael. It's your turn.
Just two things I was going to say. The first one was going to say, we do say that now, like I bang on about it all the time, that in order to succeed now in voiceover, I think you do have to learn how to act. Like that
Yes,
is
you do.
a core
You do.
foundation. Even if you're doing corporate reads, because you still need to sound,
Engaging.
like believable. You've got to
Yeah.
lift those words off a page in a way that
do.
just generic reading cannot simply do. So acting skills, learning how to act as your foundation is a really good thing. So for
It is.
actors to have that built within them, they've got a lot of the hard work kind of out the way. Now it's
They
just
have.
about tweaking it so they can now focus on vocal delivery. And the other thing I was going to say before was,
Yeah.
when I went to, I've mentioned this on a previous thing, but when I So when I went to Manchester School of Acting for a couple of years, and I absolutely adored it. And for that reason, I wanted to build on my acting ability so I can bring that to the microphone. And I naively, and I openly admit it, I thought if you can do voiceover or voice acting, which is just you and a microphone, you've got to sell a line just via your voice alone so people in the head can bring it to life, then surely, doing all the physicality will just, it should be a lot easier for how wrong I was, honest to God. Because when I went, he was like, obviously I was getting better and stuff, but one of the key things he was saying was, he says, your vocal delivery of the lines are great, would be physicality's missing. Because I was trying to find over time that balance, because like everything matters, like how you hold yourself, where you're looking, like when you're doing voiceover, none of it matters. All that. Yeah, when you're doing voiceover, you might do it, but you're only doing it for yourself to make everything feel more real. But no one's judging it. But when people are judging it, it's like that. And there's so many moving components to stage acting that I naively took into consideration. But obviously trying to develop that, I was like, wow, this is actually a lot trickier. So being able to learn all of that, fine, obviously the physicality isn't necessary for voiceover, but it is in a roundabout way, because you embody that character behind
I find
that
it
microphone.
helpful, definitely.
Yeah, and absolutely.
And the other two examples, if you'd like to hear them.
Yes, please.
So I can't tell you the brand, but what I will say is that the character I was hiring for sounded something like Ricky Rouse. So we're just going to say that, and it was for a toy, and I needed a VO that could sing as well as do apparently there's a famous imitation, a sound of this Ricky Rouse.
Okay.
Supposedly. And so I needed to find this person. And during the process, I said, I need a singing demo from you. Give me one if you've got one, or you can sing me a nursery rhyme. And I also want you to do the impression of this character. And one guy called me and said, oh, I don't have a singing demo. Can I sing at you down the phone? No, why don't you just come in? And he started singing. and he said, oh, and I can do this. Launched into another one. And I was like, this is absolutely wonderful and all, but why are you singing at me down the phone? I've just invited you into the studio. And anyway, so he didn't get cast, but it was nothing to do with the fact that he sang in my ear. It was actually to do with the fact that he just wasn't right for it. And I sent all of these auditions off to my client, and this one guy didn't send me a singing demo, and I kept pushing him, and I said, look, you are really good, but I can't necessarily recommend you unless you give me a singing demo. And he wouldn't. And so I told my client, look, this bloke is very good, I'm including him, but he's only there because I want you to see he's there. Yeah. He hasn't sent me anything singing. The bloody client chose him, didn't they? Could this bloke sing? No, he couldn't. He was so... I'm going to say he was a diva. Challenged. Yeah, and karaoke challenged. But it was also his attitude. And this comes back to what I was saying is, do I want to work with you in the first place? He walked, and in the different casting situations I've been in, sometimes I've also been asked to go in and direct the session. During the last kind of 5 years of my career, I would also be in the sessions. Cool. But when I was in this particular company, it wasn't necessary for me to go in and direct. So when a voice arrived, I would go and greet them, and then they would go off to their session, and then I would catch up with the engineer later. So when he arrived, the automatic thing for me was to go and say hello, but to leave him to it. What I didn't realise is that he hadn't left the waiting room to go to the studio. And my engineer was like, he won't come down because he wants you to come and read him his contract word for word. And also, could you go over the road? He hasn't had breakfast and he wants some biscuits.
What?
What an absolute douche.
Where do these people get off acting like this? Seriously, how can you not see it's going to harm your credibility?
What?
People talk. People talk and share information.
It blows my mind that people actually do this kind of thing.
Yeah. Madness. And so I did go and get the biscuits.
You are too nice.
I did sit with him and I did read him his contract. 45 minutes into a 2-hour session, and we still haven't recorded one word. He did, bless him, he tried on the video, he was fine. He tried on the singing, but I think by that point the client had already got a bad taste in
Yeah,
their
I'm not
mouth,
surprised.
and we never ever booked him again for anything, ever. And
Do you know if he's still working in the industry?
I would assume not, but the client actually outright refused to pay him as well. Like,
really?
I think we managed to wrangle something, but because he'd sat there for so long,
Yeah.
it was quite hard to justify.
Yeah.
Kind of, and given as well that we sent him home, it was quite hard to manage. But it goes to show that it's not just about your skill, it is also about how much we kind of gel with you,
Yeah.
and whether you've left a good impression on us.
Yeah.
So
It
was
completely
someone that,
makes sense.
What I will say is, though, in my experience, I could probably count on one hand, probably in 3 fingers, how many people I've come across with a really bad attitude. In fact, no, one hand. People have come across with a really bad attitude. And it's a rarity. Most people acknowledge that, to be able to make a living out of this line of work is you have to be humble about it, because it's not easy.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people can.
No.
But for that small percentage that don't accept that humility, I don't think a lot of them. I don't know what these people are doing now, but I just can't see how you'd survive, because nobody wants to work with an arsehole. It's just
No,
not fun.
But it goes both ways. Like, if I have a client who's not great, they're not a great payer, or they don't pay on time, or anything like that, like, we talk about that.
Yeah.
Like, we talk about these arseholes. We don't want to work with them. Nobody as a human wants to work with an arsehole, do they?
No, of course not. It just
So,
makes the whole process more stressful, more
Yeah, it does.
complicated, and and it's just, like I say, I find it's a very tiny minority. And how long we been in this industry now? 7, 8 years. Like I say, 4 or 5 people I can think of.
exactly, and our VO community is so close.
yeah.
And I'm so excited to be surrounded by so many inspiring VOs. That the industry is full, but it is also full of incredible talent and
Yeah.
people that I am dying to work with. So I do want to give every VO listening kudos for everything you do every day to just make yourself shine. And we do see you, we do hear you, and although I don't do anywhere near as much casting as I do, like I say, I have constantly got my ear to the ground. I still have those connections, and the amount of VOs that we want to take on everyone. Like, we want to like, agents want to represent everyone, but they can't. And I'm trying to figure out where I'm going with this, but essentially, if you're constantly putting yourself out there, if you're doing your best, if you're keeping yourself directable, the world is your oyster, and people are going to want to work with you. And it's interesting how, it's not just casting directors you want to impress. You want to impress potential clients. You also want to impress potential agencies, but also directors. If you meet a director, go and talk to them, because they have those connections.
Yeah.
We're all, the idea that it's a network it is a network. There are people that connect to other people. And if you push out this hardworking, honest, genuine persona, it's gonna get seen. It's gonna get heard.
All right, folks, Michael here. Just a quick interruption on the episode. Don't worry, this is not an advert. We're not going down that road yet. Basically, what happened is, when we recorded this episode, we forgot to do voiceover of the week. Of course we did. So having to just record this afterwards and add it in. Now, this week, it was Jen's turn to pick, but she's not able to record this with me today, so she's asked me to do it on her behalf. And for hang on, it's time for voiceover of the week. That's weird doing that by yourself. So this week, Jen has picked a piece of work by none other than Camille Murdoch. Camille, the work you do with Go Henry, they just work so well. This explainer video, it's easily digestible, it's fun, it's got the components there that just fit really well with the demographic and the vibe they were going for. So well done, Camille. We think it's a great piece of work, and this is what it sounds like.
With paid chores and automated pocket money, kids get that payday feeling while learning that money doesn't grow on trees and hard work pays off. Their name on the card, their money, their choices. Say goodbye to Pester Power and swap, can I have this? Or, maybe I can pay for it myself.
All right, so well done again, Camille. It's a great voiceover. Apologies for the midway intrusion. I hope you're enjoying this episode, and I'll leave you to carry on listening.
That's so lovely.
We live in a really interesting time now as well, because I think whilst the generic go-to idea of trying to get found is to reach out to people, like you say, your casting directors. I think one thing, I'm not saying anyone overlooks it, but one thing that I think is super important, so I'm going to mention it in case some people do overlook it, is your own personal brand that you put out online.
Yeah.
So, like, we have all these social media platforms, and we are the products, we are the brand. So whilst you also want to be going out and trying to speak to people, network with people, send out the emails, in the meantime, I think what you can put out on social media, you're in full control of. And if that's an opportunity for you to showcase your skills and services, whether that be, I mean, you see it all the time, like Chris Woodsworth, he does his, Chris Tester as well. They put out all these things. They're creating a window for all the potential people to come and see them. The more content you put out, that is your personal brand, putting your content out to the world, that the right people might see it. So if you just rely too heavily on the contact stuff, and then you expect them to go on your website, listen to your demos, okay, that is a perfectly legitimate way of doing it.
Yep.
But there's a huge opportunity of, in that in-between time of contacting, putting together content so people see what you're about. Because if they do come across, if you put the right hashtag in, well, they're doing away with it now, kind of, but if you put your content out there, that the social platforms, the algorithms have picked up, and, you know, there's millions of opportunities for that piece of content to get in front of the right person who might share it to the right person. And this is factual, because Chris Tester, he books a tremendous amount of work from his social media content.
Yes, he does.
And he's doing a talk on One Voice about it as well. Chris Woodsworth as well, same. You constantly so you're providing people an opportunity to see what you're all about outside of just an email telling them what you're capable of. They can see it, and you've got loads of stuff to generate through your social media. To go through to back it up.
Exactly.
I think it's massively important.
It is, and that is how I say to people to get in touch with me, is stay in my circle, stay on my radar, connect with me on LinkedIn, on Instagram, look at my posts, talk to me. I put something up the other day, actually, about why I only accept a certain amount of my connection requests. And it's not because I'm a diva, it is because I want to know that we have something in common, that I'm not just a blind connect.
Yeah.
I get a lot of requests from people trying to sell me IT services or you know, sending me useless information. But the thing is, if you have got on there that you're a VO, that you're a director, that you're an actor, or that you're an aspiring VO, I'm going to connect with you straight away. And so, yeah, if people want to stay on my radar, interact with me on socials. Come and talk to me at conferences. Let me know who you are, because even if I don't cast you, I can tell you about somebody else who is casting. Or I can recommend you when somebody asks me, do I know anyone? And I've done that a lot.
That's really useful. And I think that's one of the things that I really admire about you. And I think that's definitely come across in this podcast, is that you're always trying to help someone else out. So even when you're talking kind of briefly about your casting, the last game that you did, or with that Ricky Rouse person, you're always trying to accommodate them. So you're saying, okay, well, people are singing down the phone, you know, or saying like, oh, send me, if you don't have this singing reel, send me a lullaby or whatever, you know, that kind of thing. And I noticed that when you put the last casting out for the game you did, you were trying to be as accommodating as possible. And obviously you can only do a certain amount of that, but it's very inclusive. And I think it's really lovely and encouraging. And, you know, thank you for that. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I just know what it's like.
Yeah.
To be on the other end of that and go, what the hell do you want from me? Like, what is that?
Yeah.
Sorry, Michael, I'm just going to say, so obviously when you cast your last game, can you talk, because you've started talking about the process, but like, where did you share that information then? Were you going to agents? Were you putting it out through socials? Talk about that a little bit, please.
So it was a combination of people that I knew personally. I would directly contact them and say, look, I am doing this. Could you please have a go? I am not contacting you because you're getting it. I'm contacting you because I need you to audition, or would like you to audition. I then put it on British Voiceovers, because that is such a huge collection of people.
Cool.
Or the Facebook group.
Yes. And I think I also put it on my own Facebook, but I chose not to put it on LinkedIn, because that network is not too broad, but because I like to have my posts as public.
Yeah.
I knew that loads and loads of people that I hadn't probably never worked with or would necessarily know anything about would probably contact, whereas I knew if I put it on British voiceovers, there would be a lot of people that I knew or respected, or if I didn't know them at all, I knew that they were probably involved in that kind of
absolutely.
genre.
Not like, oh yeah, I fancy that. I mean, I'm a
Yeah.
builder, but I fancy having, it's not, people have invested, haven't they, if they're on business.
Exactly.
On British voiceovers.
And then
just to add, you can also be a builder as long as voiceover as well. Just, you know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
And so that was my thinking, and we were inundated, absolutely inundated. But they were great auditions. I was astounded. There were obviously there are always going to be some that weren't quite as strong, and if you'd like to know the reasons that they weren't strong, it was because they did me various takes. One person gave me 5 takes, and given that I'd asked for 5 minutes of content, it was 25 minutes long. Of course I watched the whole thing because I believe in watching the whole thing.
You can't though, Emily. I'm worried about you. You just can't watch 25 minutes.
Well, I did, but within 20 seconds, I decided they were wrong for the role. So, but it's giving people the benefit of the doubt, and I know a lot of casting directors don't do that, but I think that it's the right thing to do because they might not hit it first time round. But my suspicions started coming in about 20 seconds.
Yeah. You must have learnt so much about being a voiceover artist through casting.
I did.
Think you learn so much, don't you, from being on the other side of the table. I've noticed that from interviewing, even in the corporate world. As soon as you're on the interview panel, you know what you need to do as an interviewee.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's what makes, I think, from a casting point of view, I think that's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because when you've got experience on both sides of the table, especially if you're going to then try and audition for something and someone else is in the casting seat, you've got inside experience of the do's and don'ts. And with that in mind, so for somebody who is looking to get cast, whether that be well, maybe bring it back a little bit. Let's say somebody's out there trying to get recognised, to get on a roster, they've got a demo. Are there any sort of do's and don'ts with demos, etc., and trying to get noticed that you think is worth mentioning? People maybe it's simple mistakes people make that can go against them?
Yes, I love this question. So I love all these questions, but this is a particularly good one. A massive pitfall is not having differing content on your reel. So just reading with the same tone, even if that tone has been precision created, if you're using that tone for every single one of your reads, it's blatantly obvious that you either don't have the range or you haven't thought about your reel. And also it's the content. If you are choosing a brand that would be entirely wrong for you, let's say you decide to transcribe an ad from the TV and use that on your reel. If you have chosen a brand that you would never be cast for, I know that it's you haven't thought about your career. So your reel is not just an opportunity to show your range. It is an opportunity to show your personality and how much you love doing this. And we can hear it. There's this rumor that casting directors have a sixth sense that we can tell if you're not confident. It is true. We can tell if you are not committed to an audition or to a reel. So if you're sending through something that you've created half-heartedly, or you've not thought about that brand, you've not thought about what you can do, we do not feel inspired when we listen to your content. So, and that's
is it nuances? You can put
it's nuances. Yeah, and it's if there's a little bit of a spark that happens when you believe in something. And if you're reading something that requires your soul, which to be fair, a lot of scripts these days do, emotion is what sells. We can hear if there isn't a little bit of you in there, because if you truly believe in what you're reading, you will let a little bit of your own persona into that read. And if that's not there, we know that you're not interested in what you're saying. And so how do I know? Yeah, how do I know that you're going to be interested in my script?
That's magic.
Yeah, that was sort of echoes what Justin was saying on the last episode, that with a lot of the reads now, that there's a big thing which I think has been around for a while, but he kind of doubled down on it. Like, yeah, that connection, that human emotion.
Yeah.
I don't know if
That's
that's
Justin
I don't know
Sanders
if
from Global, just by the way,
Yeah.
Emily.
I don't know if that's because of a rise in like the AI stuff sort of showing its head, and then obviously a real voiceover can show you what you're missing out on if you went down the AI road. So yeah, so I agree with you entirely. I think if you deliver it in such a way that has that deep connection to like you, because like sometimes you can do. I think like for me when I'm reading a script, if it's a commercial or something, I have to really like fully understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I have to emotionally
And to who.
invest in what I'm talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah. So it's not just reading it as like I'm the voice for this product. Like I have to really get like mentally invested in it, so I feel like I'm part of it, and then I can deliver it with more authenticity.
But I think that's why it's so exhausting, isn't it? Like you say, Emily, like putting a bit of your soul in it. I think like if you're doing a lot of auditions or you're doing a recording, it's exhausting because you're giving so much of yourself to it.
It is, and I think the balance, if you like, is still giving that little bit of your soul, but not wearing yourself out.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't envy the VOs that are doing 10 or 12 auditions a day because it is draining. So what I say instead is if you're the kind of person that can do a read without, like, as in you've got good instincts.
Yeah.
Like, not rely on those instincts, but allow those instincts to carry you. Don't literally overthink it.
Yeah.
Just try and react naturally to it. Like, give it a read a few times before you actually submit your audition or whatever. But I wouldn't go wild with it, because once you really overcook it, it goes the other way.
Yeah,
we
so
lose
true.
that we don't believe you anyway. So there's no point in going crazy with it. But I would say find something in that script that inspires you. And I'm going to actually quote Jack Oddie here, because he did a talk at One Voice, I think it was 2 years ago, and he said you need to feel inspired to give your best performances. So if you're not feeling inspired, watch something or listen to a piece of music that will get you in that frame of mind, and then go and do the audition. And that is such a good way of doing it.
That's great advice. I feel like Jack already comes up a lot in our podcast, actually. Like, I feel like quite a few people have mentioned him.
Well, I think that's a good point. Yeah, I think there's many times where, I feel like it's you can. I can sometimes, if I'm reading something, I'll listen back to it, and I am my worst critic. So sometimes I'll listen to something, I'll record it and think I just not hate. Well, not hate it, a strong word, but I don't like it. I'll step away from it. I'll come back and I'll listen to it a little bit more relaxed, and it's actually not anywhere near as bad as I thought it was. I was just being hypercritical. But sometimes taking that step away and just doing something slightly different, I don't just frees up a few more creative brain cells.
Yes.
And come back to it feeling a little bit better.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. Like, I don't know. There's a bit of a, for some people that don't do this job. I get it on the outside, like some friends and stuff. I don't get it as much now, but definitely there were times if I meet someone new and say what I do, there is like a bit of a, I don't like what's the right word I'm looking for. Not naivety, but there's a word I can't. It's on top of my tip, so I can't think of it. But basically, like, they disrespect, should I say? It's not the word I want, but it's the first one that comes to mind. Like what it takes to put a script together. Like it's like you're just speaking to a microphone. Like dead easy. Listen, it's flipping. Sometimes when you're trying to get these nuances right, and you're reading a script that you can prepare for it to make it easy and you can learn it. But generally, when you're reading a script, you're working quite quickly, because the next word, as you're reading in real time, you're also trying to translate it into something that's a performance. So every word has to have the right nuance in the right place. And over time, it gets a lot easier, obviously, because you're used to it. But the mental fatigue that I can have, I'm doing a lot of it all the time, trying to get these performances right. I think it's understated sometimes.
Yeah, and there was... it's a slight tangent, but I hope it covers your point as well. Is we had just before we left our previous place, I got in a plumber to do some bits in our bathroom, and he said, "Oh, what do you both do?" Referring to me and my other half. And we said, "Oh, we're voice artists." And he said, "Oh, wow, that's so cool." And my partner said, "Oh, I'm also an actor." And so he said, "Oh, what have you done recently?" And my partner said, "Oh, I was in one of the McDonald's campaigns." And he said, "Oh yeah, that's the brand that goes the ba da ba ba ba," right? And he said, "Yeah." And he said, "So that's a voice artist that does the ba da ba ba ba." I was like, "Well, yeah." "Oh wow, so they stand on the edge of the set then, and they have a microphone, and they go ba da ba 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 over the actors." No, that's not how it works. But I think you're right. It's a misunderstanding of not only what goes into a performance, but it's also, I think, a lot of people don't know how the whole thing works. And I guess
why would you?
Why
really,
would you? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, definitely. I'm never not offended as such when people like that, but I just think sometimes it is what we put into it to try and get something right for our clients.
Exactly.
A lot more goes into it than some people probably realise.
Yeah, and it is a skill. It's artistry. That's why we're called voice artists. We work really hard for what we do, and there is some incredible talent out there. And one of the challenges now is being heard among all that talent. What is it that makes you stand out? And if you're auditioning for something, it is a little spark of you, something that you bring that nobody else does. Investigate that script. I like to think of auditions as, how can I impress the casting director with everything I found out about their script? So it's like you said, Jen, look at the audience. Who is your audience? Who are you talking to? What do they want you to portray? What's their actual message to their target audience? But also, what is the subtext of that? And I'm going to try and think of an example. There was a Boots ad recently that was about hearing care.
Yeah.
And it's saying, you can now have your hearing tests and hearing aids done in a Boots pharmacy. And the message was, go and buy Boots hearing care. But actually, the music they'd chosen, the way they had written the script, it was to appeal to younger people. It wasn't for the older generations to go and get hearing aids. It was making hearing aids cool for people who would feel maybe a little bit more self-conscious if that's how they feel.
Oh, I love that.
And so there's more to a script than what meets the eye.
Yeah.
There's so much more, and understanding that subtext is key to nailing auditions, I think.
Yeah, really, like definitely doing your research. I've done that sometimes. I mean, obviously usually you get some information on what they want on tone and stuff, but you can, like you say, you can dig a bit deeper. Like there's quite often, for certain brands, I'll go on YouTube and look at previous ads, look at what they've done, look at the sort of styles they've gone in. If they've brief sort of kind of matches the same sort of thing, I'll look at what worked in the past, and obviously I won't copy it, but it just gives me an idea of the brand identity.
Yeah, it's the world, isn't it, of that brand?
Yeah, and from an audition point of view, it just feels like I've given this my best shot, I've done my research, and it's like you say, it's just about trying to stand out a little bit.
It is stand out among, be the voice among the white noise. And
I was just agreeing with you, and think that can feel a lot as well. And I think because there are so many talented people in this industry, like you said, and they're so lovely as well. And like when you see all these amazing things come on socials, and you're like, oh, I'm quite envious of that, but also well done you. That's amazing, and they deserve it. And then you're like, well, how do I get that, or how do I work towards that, or how do I stand out? Is quite tricky. So it's interesting hearing you talk about how people can stand out in an audition.
Yeah. Carry on, Michael. Sorry.
No, sorry. Go on, it's okay.
Didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, likewise. Go on. There you go. Go.
I was just going to add that, if briefly you're looking at a reel, it's a similar thing, is choose scripts that make you feel something. Because if you feel something, your audience are going to feel it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I actually started for my new reel. I'm consistently conflicted about recording a new reel, because I do one every other year. So like 23 I did a studio reel, theoretically 25 I do a studio reel, and 24 I just make a reel from my projects. You know what I mean, to bridge the gap. And I thought, well, actually, there's quite a lot of work there to work from, so I could make another one. So what I've actually tried to do is like a hybrid. So I've started writing some of my own scripts. And Jenna shared one of them recently. So I started writing my own, putting some sound effects to it. Because like you say, like if you can write something that you feel that resonates really with you, and you can absolutely go all in on it, I think it's gonna have that little bit more of a profound effect than obviously someone writing it for you. You learning it, you getting familiar with it, and then you give your delivery. If you actually write it, because no one knows you better than you. If you write it, and I can
I'm
smash
laughing.
that.
That's such good advice. But I'm laughing because I've just done my commercial reel and I decided to write a script. And it was good. It just kind of wanted to fill a bridge that I felt like I hadn't got on my other scripts. I ended up writing about collecting dog poo. So I don't have a dog. It was just, so that's why I'm laughing.
Yeah, but
And
if you know that delivery, that's the style you think, but if it
I
was,
knew
if it was,
it's actually
came
not
across
gone into
this
the
way-
final reel, but I will share it. It just made me laugh. Like, why on earth would you choose to write about that? Something must have sparked it, a rage within me.
But that would make you stand out anyway. Is
Yeah.
people wouldn't necessarily think that is something you do include on a reel, and so good for you.
It's not gone on my final reel, but I will share it because it made me laugh.
Yeah, I think it's again, I think it's just like you say, trying to do something to stand out. And what I was going to say before was that, I mean, it is a highly competitive space, and it always has been, but I think even more so now because people. I don't think there's less work out there. I think the work that's
There's more work, isn't there? Really?
Yeah, there's more work.
I'd say so, yeah, because I think there's a lot of fear mongering around the AI, and people are like, oh, here we go again. But I am obsessed with the AI conversation. I love everyone's
That'll be
take
me.
on it.
I'll be like, God, here we go again.
I just love listening to everyone's opinion on it. I love talking about it. But I think there was the fear mongering, like, oh, AI is going to take the jobs. But actually, no, there is currently more work because, and I don't know if that's because some people who have got it, and I know personally some clients have gone the AI route and then come back and went, just doesn't work. Simple as that. Just doesn't work. But they'll use it as a scratch read. So there's a lot of content that might get lost to AI, but are you booking that anyway? I mean, if it's like a YouTuber who's got 10,000 words there, I'll give you 40 quid. It's like, no, you're not
precisely.
You're not doing it anyway. So that sort of work that gets lost is having a real conversation with yourself and say, the work I'm booking, am I actually losing it to AI? And if the answer is no, you're worrying about nothing.
Yeah.
Because most of the stuff they'll take is what they call the low-hanging fruit, I suppose.
And you're absolutely right. And if I'm going to throw in maybe I don't think it's a controversial opinion, but what I will say is I think we are, as VOs, guilty sometimes of using AI as a scapegoat. And yes, it is taking IVR. It is absolutely taking scratches and guide VOs. It is also taking those YouTube videos, but like you say, Michael, the chances of us wanting the work that those YouTube videos are giving is so slim anyway. But what I would say is that I have been very disheartened to see so many VOs saying I'm leaving the industry, or I have left the industry. Yeah, or there was a survey done recently by voiceovers.co.uk that said, how likely are you to stay in the industry, or how likely are you to consider VO your main thing? And they gave us the results, and there was a percentage of people that said, I believe in the next 5 years I will be leaving the industry. And that's a really sad thing. I'm going to say that some people are leaving because they have seen the downturn in work.
Yeah.
And although, yes, AI is hoovering up some things, there are still so many jobs out there. And so the question actually is, are your reels up to date? Is your website up to date? Are you following the current trends? There's been a new one. I don't know if you guys have seen, JMC recently did an article about ownership. The industry has shifted again within the last 2 months away from chatty conversational kind of feel, like that is still there, but it's morphed into this ownership, this idea that you take up space.
I was going to ask, because when we had Justin on, he was talking more about the conversational stuff, and I was going to ask about this because I wonder if that is that happening more in America and that side of the world, or is it coming into the UK? Because I've not seen it loads myself.
Anything
Just before you say, the definition, when you say ownership, what kind of tone is that? What do you mean exactly?
So a good example would be to look at the Super Bowl. All of their ads were kind of that feel. And the idea of ownership is there is a confidence in the way you speak. There is still that vulnerability. There is still that humanity in it, but there is more edge. It's more
authority.
More authority.
Yeah.
And Jen, to answer your question, anything that starts in America tends
Yeah.
to trickle through.
It just takes a while sometimes, doesn't it?
It just takes a while. But I would say that even though so you're correct for a start, the ownership isn't necessarily all the way here yet. But what we are seeing in a lot of advertising now is that the deliveries are certain of themselves.
Yeah.
They're not quietly entering your TV screens and kind of going,
yeah, that's a good
this
point.
product is good. Hey,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
product is
It's not
nice.
such by
You should
stealth
get it
anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose actually, now you mention it, there's a job that I did there's a genetics company called Illumina that I did about a month ago. And yeah, that's exactly what they wanted. It was more of a spoken piece. They gave some examples of what they wanted, but they wanted it to be, rather than a voiceover read in the traditional sense, they wanted it to sound like more like a presentation, and it did need that sort of like slight authority style to it, with a little bit of like, it starts off with a little bit more, with every discovery and blah blah blah, it goes on, but then like there's bits in it where the nuances, where they change to something a bit more I don't know if emphatic's the right word, but it's like a rallying cry almost.
Yeah,
like
it's that confidence, isn't it, that's coming through.
Yeah.
I just feel like the
passion, that's the word, yeah.
world is so uncertain and scary, and I can absolutely see why it's kind of shifting that way, so people have that kind of little bit more security in the person who's talking to them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, true.
Exactly. And so I think, yes, AI is taking some stuff, but it's not going to decimate our world in the way that I think some of us are fearing that it will. What I would say is stay relevant, stay keeping yourself out there, look at your reels, look at your website, look at what, like you said, Michael, which is absolutely bang on, is what are you putting out into the world? How are you portraying yourself? And yeah.
'Cause you are a personal brand.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you say, just what you're putting out, what you put out, people, I don't want to go down the line of, do you look like someone people want to work with? That's a different subject altogether. I'm just talking about, let people see what you're capable of.
Yeah.
You're in control of that. And when just thinking about that as well, what you were saying about with the AI thing, there's possibly an argument that for the people saying AI is losing our jobs, but then if you work on your craft, what if you can develop it in your own skill into something that AI definitely can't do? What's to say that those jobs won't come back to you because you're providing something totally different? And I think that's always going to be the argument. I've always said it. And so, listen, I can't say it enough. I'm not naive. I'm well aware that over time AI is going to get better, and this conversation might look slightly different in 2-3 years' time. I'm not daft, but I do double down on my reason why I don't worry about it is because, as I always say, like, as advanced as AI will get, there's always going to be that line that it can't cross, and that is be authentic and organic and human. It'll never cross that barrier, because just by the very nature of what it is. So as long as you work on your craft and you're able to do those, real feeling performances of feeling or whatever the request of you is, but as long as you can bring that authenticity to it, I think it'll be perfectly fine. And those jobs that don't require those authenticity, how many of those are you doing anyway? Because if you're going to lose those to AI, and that's what you're worrying about, but then in retrospect, you weren't booking much of those anyway, it kind of doesn't matter. It's like worrying about nothing. And I know some people who are doing that. They're catastrophizing over a situation that doesn't really quite matter to them anyway.
Yeah.
So,
and what I love about both of you is that you are so authentic. Like, this podcast in itself even is so different to a lot of stuff out there, because you don't pull your punches. You are honest. And I remember when I first listened to the first episode, I thought, wow, that's so confident. That's so, like, I've never heard anybody else do that on a podcast. And it is really inspiring. So just please keep being you.
That's very, very sweet. Thank you.
I'm very transparent. I listen, I think we all have a lived experience. I don't gain anything by bullshitting people. And I think, to be honest with you, I think the more truthful and transparent you are, the more, like, people can relate to you.
Yeah.
But if you're putting up this veil of, like, whatever that might look like, I don't know, I just that's how I feel around other people. If some other people present themselves in a way that I feel like you're not being your truth, like salespeople, and I've said this in the past, if someone messages you trying to sell you something, I know they're not being their true selves, they're being their sales version of themselves. I don't buy off that person. I buy off the real person if I'm going to do that. And I feel the same with this, like, I don't know, I enjoy people just being, in a world full of bullshit, I think it's never more popular for me to just feel like I connect with people better when they're just being honest. And just being themselves. I've got nothing to prove. I don't have no desire to impress anyone. Just be a decent person and be honest.
Exactly. And this is exactly, if we're looping this all the way back, this is what we want in performances, is we want human, we want soul, we want a little bit of you. And it's when I direct people in sessions, you will regularly hear me say, give me your soul. Give me your soul.
That was intense. The look was intense.
And something else you said as well, that Michael, that kind of really rung home is the idea of, like, I want the real version of you, and we do. I think we have perceptions of people, and or we. What I'm trying to say, I think, is that being your true self is really important. And there's a myth I wanted to address about casting directors. Everybody thinks of us as these cold people who don't really have time for you, don't really want to spend long on your audition. In fact, I think the perception of casting directors is that we think you're an annoyance on our time, you're taking up too much. That couldn't be more wrong. We want you to win. We really, really want you to succeed and to perform well, not only because we're nervous too, we're in the same boat as you, in the sense of, although we're not auditioning, we are trying to impress our boss, our person. But also, if we can get the best performance out of you, it gives the client an amazing product, but it also makes us look really great as well. But
it does. Yeah, it's very true.
Yeah, and on the flip side, if we don't find somebody who really works, or it reflects badly on us as well. So a casting director has always got their neck on the line. So the idea that we are these cold, heartless, don't feel anything, you're an annoyance on our time, could not be more wrong. We want you to win. So.
Well, I think that's an excellent way to,
I want to say, I would love to know, before we let you go, and I promise I won't make it last too long, but I'd love to know what's next for you. Like, what's exciting? What's coming up for you, Emily? What's next on the list?
Well, my dream, and I don't know if it's ever going to happen, is I really want, in VO, I really want a job where I get to sing. So I'm going to manifest that.
Amazing. Okay, we'll put it out there.
I've always wanted to be a Disney princess.
I would guess that, actually. I've seen some of your outfits for One Voice and Vox and things, yeah.
I want to be a Disney, or I want to be in an animation, if we're talking VO in that sense. I want a chance to use my singing, because I am a classically trained singer, and although I don't do classical, it's, singing has become a huge part of my world. So that is what I want to incorporate more.
I'm going to throw that back at you then. Have you ever shared that on socials, or do you share it on socials? Because I don't think I've heard it before.
Probably not as much as I could.
I think
more.
I'd love to hear it.
Should.
Get it out there in the world and we can share it.
There you go. There's a challenge for you. Get that,
there we go.
Get your first piece out.
Got to have your medicine.
Straight away, Pixar, like, I like that box. Like, instantly.
I'll be really happy for you, but I will be a bit envious.
And in terms of casting, something I'm doing at the moment, which I absolutely love doing, is it's a weird amalgamation of directing and casting. I direct loads and loads of sessions for 2 particular games, like through this one agency, 2 particular games. And it's very kind of open world, dozens and dozens and dozens of characters. Cool. So it's a never ending stream of sessions, which is lovely. But what I'm loving about it is that although I'm not involved in the casting process, I am involved before the artist is cast. And so I get the briefs through before they are cast.
Okay.
So when the voice comes along, I have to know precisely what they auditioned on, and I get sent their audition.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love the idea that when you're brought in to direct something, actually, that there is a little bit more creativity in it, because you get the chance to do a little bit of casting on the side, or do something a little bit that's not quite all the way. Yeah. So I'm all for splices. I like a project where I get to mix skills, which is another reason why I want to do a singing one, which is voicing as well. Is I want a chance to be super creative on something.
Yeah.
Do just one thing that you mentioned about, so just if somebody did want to try and get on your radar, so you could maybe consider them for something that may come up, what's the best way for them to do that? What's the best way to contact you?
Interact with me on socials, get me on LinkedIn, get me on Instagram, have a look at my content, talk to me, message me if you want. But what I would say is, if you're going to message me, please don't message me just with the idea of, hey, I want to send you my reel. Make a real connection with me, because I am inundated with people. Some don't even address me. They go, hi. And then here's my reel. And one person was like, this is a picture of my child. And it's like, could you just make a meaningful connection with me? And I'm all about relationships. So if I'm not on a project casting it, I probably know somebody who's casting something. So if I know you are there, I can at least recommend you or point you in the right direction. So come and talk to me. Say hi in person at One Voice. If you're going to be at One Voice, come and find me.
Perfect. You're going to be inundated.
Absolutely. Let the barrage begin.
Yeah. I'll be there as a bouncer.
Thanks so much. We'll wrap
it's been amazing.
Listen, I feel like I could just.
I know we have been taking quite a lot of your time that we should probably wrap up.
I'm so excited to be on here. You have no idea. So thank you both.
Thanks so much, Emily, and everyone listening. Thanks so much for sticking with us, and hope you've enjoyed it. And we will see you on the next episode.
See you on the next one. Bye.
Take care, folks. Bye bye.